So, ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on the lives of Fidel Castro and Nelson Mandela, we are reminded that leadership rooted in courage, conviction, and compassion has the power to transform society.
It's a challenge to all of us, to produce and make ourselves to be leaders who do not seek glory but who seek to change things for the better, for our country, for our people, for our continent, for the South, for the global world. I refuse to believe that those leaders were special and they were glass ones. I don't want to believe that. It's a huge challenge that we have, which actually links to the issue you're raising about curriculum transformation. We're happy that we've now moved early childhood development to education, away from social development, though it's got social development aspects, because that's where we should actually start things to be shaping the minds of young people. In that way, we stand a chance of producing more Fidels and more Mandelas, which is, of course, linked to the rest of the curriculum, which is a huge site of struggle. There's lots of debates about decolonization of the curriculum, very important, and also curriculum that's relevant to our conditions. There's still lots that is taught in our universities that I personally do not agree with, but I'm not going to. There's lots that is taught that is good, but there's lots that is taught that I just simply do not agree with. I think one missing link in our curriculum is history. It's history. That's one big missing link, including across the board. At some stage, we had planned that history was going to be compulsory, I don't know, the last 3-4 years, or right through of our schooling system. Ideally, even at university, no one should go through university without doing a module in history, especially also the history of our country. One thing I learned from the Cubans, and I remember Fidel at that Karl Marx theater, was actually talking about the further you move away from a period of repression, the more your society faces a danger of younger people who it's not their fault, but who do not really have an experience of where we come from. And history can act as a big connector on that score in order to build. I think I must just also say the last thing which we are saying. There's just a narrative that is just gaining ground in South Africa, in radios, everywhere, that the country is going to the dogs. I think we need to counter that. As you say, some surveys are showing that we're a society that is most negative about itself. We've made huge strides to be where we are today, but we still have lots of problems. We are not denying that we actually have problems. That's one lesson we can learn from our two leaders. There is no saying I like from Mandela that it always seems impossible until it is done. So we can't give up with our own country. That is also just my message to young people.
I think one of the lessons we learned from the two leaders is how they cared for other people, how they cared for humanity. Ubuntu is what they lived. Tina, we talk about Ubuntu, but I'm not sure whether we actually live it. That you are because I am, and I am because you are. So if you care, then you will want progress for everybody without glorifying yourself. I think that's how I think of them. In Cuba, through my many visits, there was a time when they were teaching kids how to watch TV. Mm. And I thought, what is this? And I asked, and they were saying simple things like, if you watch TV passively, it influences you. And because there were going to be programs that may come from the outside without Cubans knowing what people are looking at, you must always watch TV, actively interrogate what you see, and not take it passively. Because when you take it passively, it influences you. And that, for me, was a big lesson that as an adult, I didn't even know. But also, I once took my kids on holiday to Cuba. And when they came back, one of them said to me, "Ma, where do we get taught to be good citizens, like the Cubans get taught how to be good citizens?" And that was a big question. Where do our kids get taught how to be good citizens? And I think that's one of the things we should do. Because if we don't, then the narrative of other people will influence them. But also, it's important for them to know how to be good citizens. But history, when I was at high school, we had a teacher who taught us history. The history we were taught was about Van Riebeeck and all that. Then he would say to us, "Okay, this is the history you need to know for your exams. Once you've written exams, doesn't matter. Now, here is the history you must know for life." And then you tell us about the ANC, about Mandela's, about the ANC history, our real history. And he says, this one, you never put on your paper of exams. You'll either get arrested and fake, but you must know it for life. And that's probably one of the things that influenced me when I was still much younger. I remember that teacher always saying, this is the history for life. You don't write it on your exam. This is the history for your exams. If you ask me, ideally we should have free education from to the end. If you want to be an astronomist, you should still be educated free. Because for me, education and health are the most important things. Without health, what can you do? Without education and skills, what can you do? We talk about unemployment, but the majority of the unemployed are unemployable because they don't have skills. Agenda 2063, as you asked about it, talks about a skills revolution, precisely because in 2050, they say Africa will be home for a quarter of the global population. 1 in 4 people will be African and young. Some of the continents I won't name are aging. We are young. And so skills are very important now and into the future. So if you believe in Agenda 2063, you must believe in not just general education, but also skills. Skills, for me, is the most important thing. And Cuba has taught us. Cuba would not have survived if they didn't have
investment in skills.
Didn't invest in skills, in health, and other things. But those two are critical. And money must not be a hindrance for a child to go to school and to get a skill. I believe that that's the legacy Fidel Castro left, and that's the lesson I learned from him, that money cannot be the determinant whether a child goes to school or not, whether a child has skills or not.
But we are pursuing a lot of work with the Cubans now on science, technology, and innovation. We are on the eve of signing an agreement, which is a renewal in a way, and we are looking forward to actually collaborate in a number of ways, given the Cuban health system. By the way, it's not only just their health system in terms of delivery, the science behind it, the development of vaccines. Cuba developed its own vaccine on COVID-19.
Not only on COVID, they have their own vaccines
Yes.
for many
Yes.
area diseases.
By the way, Fidel's contribution to science, I think that some things still need to be written. Because Cuba is advanced scientifically in so many, particularly health innovation. In some fields, they're just on their own.
Cuba needs our solidarity. Because as the ambassador said, they are facing the wrath of President Trump. But it's not, when we first got the Cuban doctors, America threatened to put us on sanctions as a country. And President Mandela said, it's fine, let them put us on sanctions if they want. We will not stop bringing Cuban doctors. So they are always after Cuba. And I agree with the ambassador, Cuba is going nowhere. Cuba is going to survive this, but we also need to be part of the solidarity that makes Cuba survive it.